I'd like to introduce today Joyce Campbell, who is the owner and director of Next Leap Training, and it also incorporates PCM, which is Process Communication Model. So to Joyce, welcome. Thank you for coming to join us today, and just give us a bit of background of what you do and how it all works.
Thank you for having me, Lisa and Adrienne. I have a training company and I'm focusing it on communication because we use communication every day of our week. We're sitting here now communicating, and when I was in the corporate world, some of the things that I experienced with poor communication and where that led to, and also being able to identify, look at leaders as well, and helping with them with their communication. So process communication is based on human behaviour, and they've used it in NASA for leadership, and also to choose their astronauts because we think they go away in a very confined space, and then their communication needs to be pretty well spot on.
It would be.
Yeah, you want to get on with everyone.
Yeah.
It's not like
we're in a little space like this, floating around.
You're in my space.
Yeah, you're in my space.
And it's also used with safety, believe it or not, and also in the medical field at the moment. So if you can imagine an operating theatre, if people hear things and they perceive things differently, and you've just got to make sure that you're getting that message clearly across, because there cannot be any error in that. And they use it. They've used it with airlines as well, with their programs for captains, and so it's really starting to gain some traction now.
Even in the education system and
Yes,
schools?
it has been used in New South Wales education system. They had that as an approved course as well for teachers, so they can actually understand their own behaviour firstly. It's really important, and that's what I got out of when I first did the PCM course. I walked away actually understanding myself more. But it also, with teachers or with even a family situation, sometimes we'll look at children and we'll think that they're naughty or things like that, when they're not naughty. That is their basic personality, their communication, and the way they like to communicate. As well, they just like to have fun, and they can learn through having a bit of fun. So there's a school in the US that actually they make sure that the kids, all the teachers have actually done PCM over there, and we talk about environmental preferences as well, where children and us adults too, we can actually learn. We've got different ways that we want to learn. Like, I like having time to myself. That's when I'm my most creative. So I make sure now I put myself in that. If I need to be creative, I make sure that there's no noise around me, and I can actually move into that space quite well. So that's what they've been able to do with the schools as well. Bring it into the schools.
It's quite fascinating, really, when you look at it. To understand your own behaviour is so important, so that you can mingle with other people, but have an understanding of, like you said, if you're creative on your own, getting that space and time to be able to, still be creative and do things that way. It's quite interesting to understand and know what's good for you and necessarily what's bad for you as well.
Yeah, but also understand what makes a successful team, because you can't have, a team of 5 all with the same traits. Like I'm a harmonizer, Adrienne's a harmonizer, you're a harmonizer. That's right. But it's to some extent you need the rebel and the promoter and that to make sure that everything ticks very well.
Yeah, no, and also what PCM is about, it's about being able to energise yourself, to be able to connect with all those personalities, because we have there's 6 personality types, and we've all got some of those personality types in us, but more so than others. So, for instance, I'm harmoniser. My preferred communication style is harmoniser, whereas my very least is a promoter. So what PCM does is it actually teaches you to energize yourself so that you can actually deal in all of those different communication styles. So I know with Wandering Women, for instance, you know, that's actually helped me, I suppose, in some of my development, being able to, every time I go on a walk, I'm meeting someone, or I'm going on a weekend, I'm meeting with someone, and I actually, and I know Lisa's done the course, so we walk along and we go, okay, well, you know, that person is preferred communication style is harmoniser. So we will, could be harmoniser, could be promoter, so this is the way we need to engage with that person.
To get the best out of it.
Yeah.
So how do you see this developing in like the corporate environment, because obviously there's a lot of similar marketing models out there, so as far as like we're both in the corporate world, and I see the model and understand the concept, but you know, how do you see that rolling out to the corporate world, and what impact can it have to them?
Yeah, well, with PCM now, there is now a leadership profile, and that leadership profile, I've been doing some one-on-one coaching with some leaders of the organisations, and they've been able to firstly understand their own behaviour, so important, but also understand their distress behaviours as well, because we all have distress behaviours. So I coach them to actually understand their own psychological needs, so they can help themselves bring themselves out of distress in certain situations. So you've got a first, second and third degree level of distress. So first degree, you can go in and out of quite easily. Second degree distress, you can usually, if you know PCM, you can actually bring yourself out of that as well, or you can bring other people, if you know PCM, out of it. But yeah, it's I'm seeing it more, the people that I have actually coached, they've been able then going back into their teams and be able to manage them and understand them better as well, through understanding themselves. And that's so if you've got 6 people or you've got 10 people sitting around a boardroom, you know, being able to also identify some of those behaviours and how they need to be communicated with to get the very best out of that person. It's motivation too. PCM's a motivation tool as well.
It's very interesting to be able to use it to your benefit as well, to get the best out of your workers or out of people that you're you know, working with on a leadership team, or as you said, in a boardroom, to be able to see and utilise the right way to communicate to those people to get the best out of them is quite a good tool to have in your pocket, really, isn't it? To be able to do that.
Yeah. Well, PCM's also about decoding other people's behaviour as well. So if by the end of the course, you're able to identify, you know, after speaking to someone for 5 minutes and maybe asking certain questions, you are able to understand what that person's preferred communication style is, but also what distress behaviours they're likely to have as well, and be able to help them as well. So, you know, some people like all the data, for instance. They want data. Some people don't want the data. You know, they want to have a bit of fun on getting it. Some people like direct communication. Other people don't like that direct communication. And I always use a bit of an example. You know, sometimes if you meet someone and the way they communicate with you, and you go, oh, that's not comfortable.
Yeah, that's happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's happened.
That's uncomfortable. That's because
That's definitely happened.
they're not using the right channel to communicate with you. But they don't know that. If they don't know PCM, they don't know that. But with people who know PCM, straight away they can actually pick that up and be able to communicate directly,
Mm.
correctly with that person
Mm.
as well. So yeah, and it's a lot of fun as well. It's quite a lot of fun. Now you can actually some of these reality TV shows now, you can sit there, especially when they go into distress, and you can actually pick up
Train wrecks.
Yeah, train wrecks. Yes.
Train wrecks.
I don't know how much of it is acting, but yeah, you can actually. I know some of the courses that I've had, workshops that I've run. Within the next week, you've got people, texting each other, going, "Oh, have you checked this out? Have you checked that out? Oh, that person's this, that person's that." So it's actually really, it can be used quite well for people to train themselves actually and to build their skills.
Yeah, I remember the retreat that we did at Warrowing, and you did a little bit of PCM there on the first night that we got there. And it was very interesting for the next 2 nights, walking around looking at everyone going, now that's a harmonizer, that's definitely not one, and trying in your head, trying to use those tools that you gave us to look at people and see them in a different light. Or the way that they're normally seen, but understanding a little bit more about their behaviours and why, so to speak, more than just going, oh my God. They're going, oh yeah, okay, now I can see that, and I need to come at you at this way so that you're not thinking, oh my God, it's it's very handy.
It is. I think one of I mentioned distress behaviours before, and it's so important to be able to really look after yourself as well with your communication. And I know myself, I'm a base harmonizer, and I'm actually a phase, what we call a phase persister. So if I go into distress, which I've learnt not to now, but it brings back some terrible memories when I go into distress where I shove my opinions down people's throats. So I now know.
Okay.
But now I've learned, just wind it back a bit. I can actually feel myself going into that behaviour. And I recall a group of people that we did a PCM course with, and they were all managers in the one company, and they actually came up with a plan that if one of the other person was going into distress, all they would say is, "You're not okay." And it was a little bit of a code word for that person then to actually realise. And that's what's great in a team environment, to be able to recognise that and work as a team to go, "You're not okay."
So it's quite a good tip, that though. Just a nice little code. You're not okay. You've got to work with it. You've got to do something. Change it. Do something. What would be your best, tips for communication and how to communicate?
Well, I think the best tip is to understand not everybody's going to communicate the same ways that you do. So have some patience with people. And that example I gave before is, some people are going to want a direct communication, and that's what they're actually going to strive. That's what they want, the direct communication. They don't want you beating around the bush and asking a question. So just be mindful that everybody's different. Everybody's got, there's 6 different perceptions that we have. Everybody has, people have different perceptions, and there's 720 different combinations. So I always remember that. Think of that whenever I'm communicating with people, that they're in their personality structure, 720. So just be mindful when you.
So when you're facing someone that is phasing or in distress, what kind of advice can you provide of again understanding the approach and the communication, but when you recognize that, at what stage do you need to give some constructive advice or reference, or that's a bit of a.
Well, it's a tricky one because it depends on the actual personality, their preferred communication style of how you would actually address that. So for a harmonizer, for instance, their perception is emotion. So, you would talk to them, you would actually communicate through emotion. to them, and let them know that you're a good person. You know, a promoter, for instance, they just want action. So if they're not getting action, they're going to, if they go into distress, they're going to actually cause negative drama to get that action. So it's about being able to feed that psychological need, understanding what their psychological need is when they're in second degree distress, to be able to address it. And it's it promotes action. You need to give them some action around it. You need to set a challenge for them. If you're in a team environment, set a challenge for them. They love challenges. So yeah, it's different for everybody, and there's all sorts of different distress behaviours that we display. With a thinker, for instance, that could be, they'll be over-analysing, giving you a lot of data. And it's quite easy for me. In my condominium, I'm quite high, quite not that much in thinker. So a lot of data to me is going, stop. So I've actually got to understand that person's communication. They're in distress, so I need to actually let them know, feed their psychological need, and let them know how valued that information is really important, and then take them out of distress. So it can, it's predictable as well. It's sequential and predictable when someone's going into distress.
That's 17. Okay, all right. I can cut that out. That's fine. So thank you very much for spending some time with us and discussing the PCM. We really appreciate it. We've actually, and I've just said 4 times, but anyway, we've actually got a question for all our guests today. So we're asking them if you could go for dinner with anyone.
Apart from me.
Apart from me. You two ladies are the first on my list.
If you could go for dinner with anyone in the world.
So I'm dealing with the harmonisers here.
If you could go for dinner with anyone in the world, who would you pick?
Dead or alive?
Dead or alive, yes.
Daniel Craig.
Oh, Daniel Craig. Okay. Yeah. Okay, all right. That's your first one. Okay, who's your second and your third?
Huh?
Yeah. One person I've really admired, I'd love to sit down and understand why. I've watched her documentary, but still, is Kathy Freeman.
Oh, yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah. And, just watching that drive that she had and just that focus she had that night. Still get chills actually thinking about her winning that night, but her focus was just
phenomenal.
Yeah, definitely.
Even in all the dress and everything.
It was amazing, that whole setup. Yeah.
No one will ever forget that.
No one will ever forget that.
Well, it's one of those moments you're going to know remember where you were.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
That night.
Definitely. And your third person?
Actually, this has happened quite recently, and I was actually watching the news the other night. And Kelly Slater.
Oh, yes.
At the age of 50, and again, it's about drive and the focus that they have on what in achieving and what they've achieved. Love to sit down and talk to him, or have dinner with him, but actually talk to him about what keeps him
at the top of his game. Really at the top of his game.
Yeah.
Be a very interesting conversation.
I really love sports, so that's probably, I like James Bond too, but I think sport is...
I understand, very good, So thank you very much. We've really enjoyed having you. Yeah, it's been fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoying Wondering Women will continue.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joyce.